In this video, we're going to talk about the configuration capabilities within the case info widget. We're going to break it down into two sort of subtopics, which is configuring options, which is really the meat and potatoes, and then just how it interacts with the processing widget, because that's an important point to know. So we'll hop into the tool and do those things. It's easy to say what we're going to talk about here, but this is actually relatively complex compared to many of the videos we do. So I apologize for that, but hopefully it'll be understandable. So we're in the widget and we're going to go here to configure. And you can see there are 5 sort of subsections we can configure. Case info, evidence info, investigator info, source location, and suspect/custodian. Now these exactly correspond to the sections within the management section. Again, we've got case, evidence, custodian, location, and investigator. And they're meant to sort of allow you to build, if you will, the questionnaires, the summaries, the information collection apparatus you need to properly populate those sections. So let's go through. We're going to start with case info. Most of these things are exactly the same. So we'll probably skip over most of them. But let me show you how to build one within the case info tab. And again, that extends to the other tabs. But first you come here and you can, any one you've got saved, you can click on these to look at them or edit them. But we're going to start fresh here. So we're going to go ahead and click here and add. And you can see it asks for the field. This is the most important thing. This is really what you're trying to record. We don't need to do case name, that's recorded already, but let's say we want to do, let's say a case is associated with a larger legal matter. So we'll call this matter. So again, apart from the case name, this will be the matter, and we can enter pretext. So imagine we're going to get a survey question. The investigator is going to get a survey question about the matter, and we want to explain what the point of that question is. We'll do, please enter case matter. And we could type much more extensively. As much as we want, we can type here. This is the text that occurs before the entry place for the question, and then we can say thank you. This is the text that occurs afterwards. Now we want to find out what type of field we're trying to create here. This would probably be a text field where we just expect some simple entry, but you can see you can choose a radio, checkbox, text area, number, and date. And we'll do a couple of these so you get to see what they are. But let's start with text, that being probably the most easy one. And then it asks, is it required or isn't it required? We're going to say it's not required. Then we're going to come down here and we'll do another one, and we'll call this explain. Please explain the case. And we don't need any post text, but now since we're asking them to enter a bit more, we're going to want to do a text area. We're not going to make that required either. We can come, now we want to use the radio and checkbox options so you can see what those look like. I want to see, and I'm just gonna make silly stuff up here. I lack the imagination to come up with stuff that really matches a case here. So we're gonna ask the investigator, color. Please give a color, which of course you would never do, but let's go ahead and do this is a perfect one for the radio option actually, so let me keep it there. And now we got to make sure we enter the possible values, and we want to separate them with a semicolon. So we'll do red, yellow, blue, green. Excuse me, apologize, I got something in my throat here. Okay, now let's go ahead and add one more, and we'll do yes, no. And I'm just going to use the, oh shoot, let me switch this to checkbox. Oh no, actually, excuse me, I want to do a checkbox here. I'm going to want something that is multi-answer. So I really don't want yes, no. That's a silly thing to put. And we'll do, what's a multiple answer question? I don't know, multiple answer. So really now I'm hitting the bottom of the barrel in terms of my imagination and my spelling. And I won't do a pretext or post text. And I'll just enter 1, 2, 3. And now let's go ahead and let's make this one required, just so you get a sense for what effect that ultimately has. Now, there's one last thing I want to point out before we go ahead and save this is case type required? Meaning, when we create a case, are we going to force them to create a case type or assign that case a case type? And if we have this checked, yes, then before they're allowed to add evidence to that case, they're going to need to go ahead and populate one of the several different types we have here. We're going to call this video demo. Again, I'm ignoring my spelling. And we just go ahead and save that. And now we have our various different case types that are available. Then we can click on them if we want to edit them. I didn't show you can delete stuff. You can go ahead and click on this and delete the row. And if we want to go back to what we just created, there we go. So now let me show you how that manifests itself both in the demo widget and in the manage section. So let's go into the into the process data widget. And if you remember, when we created a case in the processing data widget video, we talked very quickly about these capabilities, these custom fields. And we basically said, hey, we'll talk more about this in the case info video, because these are where we input the information we just created in that configure screen. You can see this is our video demo option. And if we click on this, you can see the things the fields we created are here, and the various options we put for the check mark is there, and the select button there. Anyway, you can go ahead and enter this information with your case, and you can click Save Fields. Now, we made this information, we made entering case information required. And let me show you what that ends up meaning. So we're going to create a new case. And we'll call it case info, call it 7. I don't know if I have any case infos already. So let's go ahead and create case. And I'll just skip over this create case process. Okay, our case got created. And now I'm going to go ahead and try to add evidence to it. And when I click that, it says you must fill in a required case field before adding evidence. And that's because we made this information required. Now let's go ahead and go to video demo. And let's fill in some information here. And let's go ahead and save this. And it says we're saving information, saving case info up here. And now when we click it, we're going to actually get that same error. And the reason we're going to get that same error was because when we made the custom fields, we made this element, the multiple answer, also required. But we didn't fill anything out here. We obviously have left it blank. And so it's going to go through and say, are all the required fields filled out? And it's going to see this one isn't filled out, and it's going to balk at that. So let's go ahead and prove that out. And there you go, same message as before. So let's go ahead and fill out one of these, and we'll click save. And it's worth noting that actually this process is a little slow. We need to optimize it. But for right now, you'll just have to sort of suffer through it a little bit. It takes maybe about 30 seconds to do all the things it's got to do when you click save here. And that's refresh custodians. It's got to save all the information, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, now the punchline is going to be that now when I click add, it's going to open up the add evidence screen, and I can go ahead and add information if I wanted to. So let's just prove that out. And there it is. The same thing is going to be true for evidence custom fields, and I'll show you those in a second, but it's the exact same dynamic here. We can choose custom fields, and you see red here means it's required, and you can go ahead and enter the information, but it won't let you process this evidence unless you've saved the required information associated with it. So let's go back to the case info. I just wanted to take that little detour to show you that. And now let's go into manage. That's the other place this information pops up. Oh, excuse me, actually, let's not do manage here because it's not interesting for case information because case information is primarily filled out in that process data screen. Let's go and actually let's create something like a location. I know for a fact we should see the survey type questions I'm looking for here. There are already two locations created, home and home A. They create them exact same way that we created them in the case info, but we've just got gobbledygook here. So let's create one fresh and make it at least a little bit intelligent. So for the field name, we're talking about location. We're going to do location type, and we'll say enter location type. We won't do any post text. Usually there's no post text. We'll make this a radio for sure. And we'll do office. We'll do home. We'll do public. Okay, and then let's do for location type, we'll do location owner. And we could say enter building owner. And we'll do for that, we'll do text. And then we'll do location description. And we'll say describe building. And we'll give them a little bit of real estate for that one. We'll do text area. And we'll call this video demo. And we're going to go ahead and save it. Okay, now that we've got that, and again, look, it populated exactly, I mean, we built it exactly the same way we built the other one, and that's going to be true for all of these. Let's go back to manage, and let's add a location now. This is standard information about location. Again, there's a whole video on manage, so I'm not going to spend time on that. This is just a configure video. Let's click on video demo, because I want to show you what it looks like. So here, location type. Here's the prelim text. It says enter location type with stuff spelled wrong. And we've got sort of office, home, public. We'll do public, enter building owner, and we can enter the building owner if we want to, and enter location description. We can enter location description if we want to. And ultimately, we come up here and click, we'll call this location A, and we can click save and it would add it here. So that's how it works. The only other thing worth exploring in configure is suspect custodian. And the reason, actually, excuse me, we should look at both investigator and suspect custodian. They both work slightly differently. Investigator, because now you're talking about actually users of the system. Investigators are people that have Quincy logins. So you can see here, there's not the ability to enter different types. You can still enter the different fields we're talking about, but you can't have, one investigator type, another investigator type. You just have the one. And whatever you enter here, let me show you where that pops up. When your administrator creates an investigator here in users, you can see here are the fields. I mean, obviously I entered gobbledygook stuff, but here's the fields that you just saw we were configuring. So anything you enter in that case info widget will pop up here, and when somebody goes to edit a user, they're going to get the information you entered there. So hopefully that's pretty self-explanatory and clear. So let's go back to case info, and lastly, suspects custodians. Again, it's a similar dynamic. You can't have types, if you will. You just enter information, same as we have on all the other screens. And then that information manifests itself in the Custodians tab. And those of you who are familiar with the Custodians tab, there's a video dedicated to it, and you can go explore it and understand a little bit better. But the fields you enter will show up here just the same way they did for these, for the investigators. So let's go back to case info. And those are the 5 tabs I wanted to discuss, and I showed you sort of how they pop up. And ultimately, if you create them correctly and you get all the information you need, you'll have a pretty rich management, visualization, and reporting capability. So that's it for this video. Hopefully that was helpful. If you want to see how to ultimately use this stuff, again, refer to the manage video or the report/visualization video. Thank you very much.